As always, when you do a collection of like your favourite 25 horror books, you always find a load more that you've completely forgotten about. Of course, this one, and I'm not going to go through it, I've done a review already of this entertaining EC Comics cover artist edition. It weighs a ton, it's brilliant, lots of great covers you can see on the covers there. And you've obviously got the back there. It's a thick, super heavy book full of some masterful horror work. So I'm just going to put that down, but that's an excellent collection and should be still readily available to buy. So let's go through some of the other books. Vampirella, The Warren Years. Now this is from Dynamite, absolutely superb. They produced a lot of really brilliant books. Haven't produced many recently of these sort of star books. I wish they would come back and add a few more, but recently not. I think one or two that I've seen. However, I just loved them. This one, Vampirella, you got the obviously the original artwork as well as of course the actual cover there, and they repeat that all the way through. So you've got another one there, and also some text, giving some details obviously from the artist, etc. What was happening? Vampirella again, and then another cover. Just a absolute lovely hardback book, really great. The Warren Years. I think there's also another one that's the later Vampirella. I didn't get that. I don't know if that's still readily available or not. However, another book sort of connected with this, The Masters of Spanish Comic Book Art. Now I've done a review of both of these actually, these books, and well, this one's superb. This is absolutely, it's a lot of crime as well as westerns and other things, but there's a lot of, and you can see from the back, there's all the artists that are involved, Masters of Spanish, and it's creepy, eerie, etc. But it also covers a lot of like the Spanish magazines, the various Vampros there. You've got lots of brilliant artwork there all the way through. Lots of superb, and it also shows the individual artists. So it goes from artist to an artist to another artist. And sometimes they're like the girls' magazines from the UK, as well as Captain Condor and many, many others. Brilliant book. If you can find a copy of this, definitely worth checking out. You've got just cover after cover of brilliant Crypt of creatures, the Shudder Tales, Professor Zamora. Some of these I'm certain were probably Italian. That must be an Italian one. Quite a lot of Italian ones. They produced a lot of them, and they were good. Some, not all, of course, but and also, of course, Holland and Germany, whatever. Loads of great, superb books. And this is an absolutely wonderful collection. And sort of connected with this, another one of these brilliant Dynamite books that they brought out. I love these books. This is The Art of Jose Gonzalez, and the premier Vampirella artist, and it's got some brilliant original art pages. Really good, as well as showing lots of photos, also various magazines they obviously did in the UK. Another one in the UK, Liberty Saint Dare, and some more Vampirella, etc. Just absolute beautiful books all the way, beautiful, filled with just some really great art. So it's not just obviously horror, terror, etc. But this really worth checking out. Art of Jose Gonzalez. Like I said, they announced quite a few of these books over the years, and sometimes they just don't seem to come out. I really hope that they continue with these Dynamite books, because I just loved. I've got quite a few, and they're great. And they haven't produced many recently. Well, hopefully they do. Hopefully they continue to do that. This is brilliant. I love this. Bare Bones. It covers a mixture of things. You've got like Web Detective there, the She Creature, obviously films, as well as The Curse of Collingwood. So you've got their books, The Trilogy of Terror. And it's just full of information about loads, and it's quite depressing in many ways, because you go through it and you think, oh, Air Force One is haunted, and you go and look for some of these books or these DVDs and things, and they're very hard to get. So obviously it's just a true work of love, labour of love, this sort of book. It's the Web Detective Stories, Volume 2, Issue 3, June 1959. You know, Satan thumbs a ride. And that sort of dopey thief steals, etc., etc. It gives you a nice synopsis. And you just read some of these things and you think, you know what? I suspect I will never, ever read them. And also 2001, A Space Odyssey, etc. Loads of great, and also covers as well. You've got here The Man with the Getaway Face. Great name. Richard Stark, of course. Just Donald E. Westlake. And just Slayground. Butcher's Moon. So you got that. Now this is a weird one. Really, because it's got the title, Weird World of Eerie Publications. Comic gore that warped millions of young minds. Well, maybe thousands of young minds. I You know what? During the time when they were coming out, I never saw a single copy of it in the UK. I'm certain they were around. I just didn't see copies of it. It's quite possible they just didn't get into my town. I don't know why. Out of the Shadows, you've got Web of Mystery there. There's some serious form of flattery, and you've got Beware. So it's got a lot of examples of some just brilliant sort of suspense, all the various books. It's a lot of background. And also got Dave Clark 5 versus the Beatles. Tales from the Crypt, Weird, and so on. It's just full of just great stuff. The shots heard round the office, Crime Does Not Pay, Rump, Terror Tales from the Hood, The Witches, Vampirella, Crazy, it's just full of great pictures and just a lot of information, lots of great artists, examples of artwork all the way through. Sadly, my copy's a bit slightly battered. Oh, that one, Scream. I've got that one. Scream, Zombie, Rise Up Thy Tomb, and Die Again. Extra Scaporo. I've got no idea. Anyway, lots of like Italian magazines. I assume that's Italian. Might be Spanish. Italian. Sounds Italian. And you've got other ones here. The weird. It's got all the covers here. All the various weird witches, Tales of Voodoo, Tales from the Tomb. They went through the lot. Tombs of the Tales and Terror Tales and Tales of Voodoo, Horror Tales, Weird Witches Tales, Dark Mystery Tale, and so on. There was a lot of different, just brilliant book, Eerie, really worth checking out if you can get a copy of this. I found this a quite cheap copy of this one. I was right, and that's probably why it was slightly battered. It was like about £10, and I was like over the moon to get it. But it is slightly battered, and but still, absolutely love that. Brilliant book. Now this one is good. Dennis Gifford. Hamlin. Lots of people consider this one of the great books of horror books, and it is good. Lots of great films all the way through it. Baloo the Demon Baboon, or whatever that was, Christopher Lee. And there's lots of text and lots of examples of pictures. Obviously Peter Cushing there, and someone there. Oh, Boris Karloff and in The Sorcerers, apparently. Anyway, I don't think I've ever seen that film. And there's loads of other ones, Invisible Man. It's just full of examples of brilliant films and some not so brilliant films. Dracula Lugosi, of course, and that one, Luke Costello, and so on. It's just full of great things. And this is a nice book to get. Should be reasonably easy to find copies of. I got this fairly recently. It was one that I think it was Dave McKean or something who mentioned it, and I thought, you know what? Or it might have been on one. Quite often when you watch videos, like of Dave McKean or someone, you often look at the back of what they've got all the books. And I think he might have had that one. Or it mentioned it somewhere about saying about this book, and I thought, you know what, I must get a copy of it. So I did. Rushed out and got a copy. And this is one that sort of relates to Dave McKean. There's, I think, some examples of Dave McKean in it. It's Mike Mignola, etc. This is a brilliant book, The Art of Pulp Horror. And there's a couple of these sort of books, related books. The art of, I think it's like science fiction one. I've just remembered another one that I've got, an art of horror book sort of one. Anyway, it's around somewhere. But it's another one. It's got full of lots of examples. Murder House, Old Dark House, 1922, I think that was. Brilliant film. I love these ones. These are always great. Now, they should bring out a book of that, and I would buy that book. A book of newsstands. I'd be like rushing out to buy a copy of that, because it's just great, because you can then spend all the time looking at all amazing sports something, and sports action, and Black Book Detective, Lariat, West, True Story, and so on. Just absolutely. Penny Dreadfuls, it's got a whole load of, obviously, some Dave McKean there. Brilliant. I love Dave McKean's work. Of course, he's probably, you could say, horror as well. I've got stacks of Dave McKean. Old Dark House again, Weird Tales, Strange Stories, and Mad Monster. It's got lots of films. And some of these I've never heard of. I really just like, obviously I Walk with Zombie. The Curse of the Cat People, of course, classic films. But there's some of this one, The Gildersleeve's Ghost. Never seen that. Never ever seen that. It's also got comics, of course. Ghost of Gorgon. Eerie, of course. Mike Mignola, Abbott and Costello. Lots of film, and these sort of ones. These lovely books. The Pocket Book of Ghost Stories. Just a superb book. Absolutely worth checking out. This one is by Stephen Jones. Really, really great collection book. Applause Theatre and Cinema books. Worth checking out. So there's that. This one is excellent. I love these, but I haven't got many of them. But Skywald, I don't know why, but they are odd stories, and this one's a very good little book. It's obviously not like Warren Publishing, not creepy, etc. But you've got some really slightly odd, quirky stories. And this has got lots of examples, obviously, of the artwork, stories as well. I don't know how many are there. There's, it probably says on the back, 19 original horror mood stories. There's obviously H.P. Lovecraft, Warren, etc., Marvel Comics, all the sort of, you've got a feeling of obviously that sort of stuff. It's just great. Absolutely superb book. The magazines are still reasonably easy to find. You should be able to find Skywald. But this book, I think, was about £40. It's out of print now. But you should be able to find it sort of online. I'm certain that copies make the rounds. And it's really good. It's got obviously lots and lots about the artists as well. Artist profiles there. You got, I don't know some of these people. Gene Day. I do know of Gene Day. A crime machine, science fiction odyssey. So it's not all horror, but you've got here the science fiction. I wonder what was in that. Thrilling Saga by Gardner Fox. Oh. Adaptions of science fiction stories by Terry Carr, Harry Harrison and Larry Niven. Sounds excellent. Also, it's probably got an index. They've always generally got index here. It's got a lovely index in the back, which is always great. And you can always go through it. The Sundance Kid, Bravardus, Butch Cassidy, Crime Machine, Hellrider. I've seen copies of that recently. Psycho 15, Psycho 13, etc. And it's got a listing, obviously, of all the various things. Just brilliant. Doug Munch. This is a superb book as well. This one, I love this. And I've done a review of this one as well. The Best of Scream Factory, the magazine, quite a few years ago apparently, from 1988 to 1997. But this is full of lots of things, lots of great, all the covers, all the various ants, all the books and things that you should be able to find copies of. Supernatural magazine, H.P. Lovecraft, you've got here about horror in comics, you've got Spectre there. Oh, I love this. Spectre was pretty gruesome at times. I must admit, amazing what they put in some of those comics. 1973, we had people sort of dissolving away as a sort of, you think, I wonder if anyone really looked at those and thought, you know what, they're pretty gruesome. However, maybe they did that in Theodore Sturgeon as well. Of course, just lots and lots of, loads and loads of examples here of books. Obviously, H.P. Lovecraft, August Derleth, I never say his name right, 50 Werewolves, the worst Australian horror novels of the modern era. I always love ones where it's got the worst, what's the names of, I could never do a worst of books. I'm hopeless when it comes to saying that book is really the worst. I probably got rid of it if it was the worst. It's one of those books that I very rarely keep books. If I think, oh, that's terrible, I will never review it, and I will probably never ever, it's just, but however, this is just brilliant. I love it. The Scream Factory. This is about 580 odd pages full of lots of information, and it was reasonably priced. I think like relatively next to nothing. I think just what a bargain. This one, Scream Factory. Now this book, slightly heavy. Maybe not for everyone, but it's the complete Tales from the Crypt. However, it is in French. So I've got quite a few things like French. And one time, because I worked all over Europe, and I collected like Holland and Dutch books and all those sort of things. Loads and loads of, and there was horror books and science fiction. And you just get all these and they had the weirdest of ones, like these sort of collections that you would never get in the UK. You literally get these like 500-page books of some of these sort of comics that you get in the UK. And you think, wow, why don't we get these? They were reasonably priced again. They were, next to nothing, a couple of guilders or something. And you think, really? And this is just full of just great. But quite often, if you look around and sort of around Europe, you can find just strangest of book collections. You think, really? They've got those sort of collections that you find it hard to get in the UK. It's like one of my favourite ones, Tiffany Jones. I love that series. It was in the Daily Mail. And you just can't get a collection to save your life in this country. And yet there's Italian collection, massive Italian collection of, Tiffany Jones. And you think, of course it's in Italian, but this is just great. It weighs a ton as well, but beautiful example. It's similar, of course, to the Russ Cochran one, though I think probably the Russ Cochran is obviously still superior. But I think this is a nice collection. Certainly if you haven't got Russ Cochran's in, and that goes for ridiculous amounts, sometimes 300, 400, 500 pounds to get a collection of Tales from the Crypt. Can do anyway. I've seen ridiculous prices for it. So this one was reasonably priced. And if you're just really more for the artwork. The stories you can work out. It's not like, you know, it's in French, but it's not that difficult to work out what's happening in a horror story. Most of the stories, it's, you know, so absolutely fine. And I think it's a lovely collection. Apparently they've got another one out. I noticed there was, yeah, I'm certain there's 2 or 3 of these sort of massive. They're quite hard to sometimes find if you're looking on the web to find them, because of course it's called Tales from the Crypt, and you're looking for French books. It just doesn't always. You have to go to the Amazon French site or whatever, or eBay France or something, and you might find these things. Now this is one I mentioned. So a lot of people pointed out in the last video that I had this behind me. House of Mystery. Of course, this is the omnibus. Now, I didn't get volume 2, or I don't know what volume they're up to now, of the Bronze Age ones. But, I mean, I actually love these stories, and it's just full of just absolute, and of course it's colour all the way through. Welcome. And always these quirky bits as well, which was always quite nice. I love these sort of quirky sections where they would have a like one-page story. Something that they don't do enough of, one-page stories. The man who haunted a ghost. So you've got like a story that's like 2 or 3 pages, 4 or 5 pages, and then you've got like this one as well. Just 1 page, just a 1-pager, and I just think they're just great. And you've got some, of course, brilliant Gil Kane ones there, page 13. Oh, Inks Wally Wood. That is Gil Kane. Yes, of course it is. There's no way that wasn't Gil Kane. It was certainly someone. But so I just saw Wally Wood, but I didn't see the art by Gil Kane. But it's just great. And this is full of lots and lots of artists, different artists. So it's a real mix of styles all the way through. Doesn't have any bonus or extras or anything. Not sure what that's for. I've read all the way through it, so it's for some weird reason it's stuck there. However, this is just absolutely brilliant book. Oh, and also, of course, it's got the covers as well. Though weirdly, look at that. The cover is obviously clearly printing from thing, hasn't been cleaned up in the normal way, so they've just gone for, I suppose because of the way it's done, it would have been hard to do. However, brilliant, absolutely brilliant collection, House of Mystery. Really worth checking out these, and I don't know if they're readily available still, I assume they are. So that's that one. This is an excellent book. Like me, I love drawing, I love artwork, and I just think any book like this is just brilliant. So this is just Charlie Adlard, get his name right, obviously Walking Dead, and it's just full of lots of great examples, also lots of like thumbnail pages and things, and just great. You just flick through this, just wonderful. And also it's nice to have all these sort of comments about how he approaches things, always fascinating. All talk about the panels and the structure, Dock of the Dead, and those sort of things. And this was like, I think, well, $9.99. I think you probably can find it cheaper as well. It's just absolutely superb book. I think there is also a hardback version. I bought the softback version of this, but it's still absolutely brilliant, really worth checking out. Full of some great examples of artwork all the way through, so definitely superb. And to round it off, go through these ones. I love these ones. Chilling Archives of Horror Comics. They are just absolutely superb. Sadly, I didn't buy them as they were coming out, and some of them are now easily out of print, but I still can find some reasonably priced. This is volume 3, and they turn up in various shops as well. You go to a comic shop and there's a local town, and quite often they seem to have piles of these sort of books, and you think, oh, we've got another one, and I have to quickly check to make certain, because of course volume 3, volume 4, you start to get to the point you think, have I got volume 4 or I got volume 5? I'm not certain after a while. However, you got the complete Voodoo, that one, and it's good because you got, and the artwork's great because it's obviously they haven't cleaned it up. They haven't, you know, what's the name for that? I mean, it's probably a little bit cleaned up, but you've got all the little bits of grime and dirt on the thing there. You can just see the smudges there, which is great, and also you've got the covers as well, and also some information as well, Voodoo one as well, and also some just brilliant artwork. Some pretty iffy stories as well at times, but also you've got a nice little introduction, which is always good. Also you might find some of these anyway, original art pages, which is always good. That was that one, and that one is well, it's obviously got picture on the back there, and this one's Jack Cole. Sometimes they're a particular artist. They obviously but this one's Jack Cole's Deadly Horror. And again, you've got some just absolutely superb artwork. Zoom, Sub-Zero Man, Playboy's hard worker, freelancer. Now, Jack Cole, some really great artwork. I mean, Plastic Man, of course, absolutely. I mean, look at that. You can imagine that coming out. No one would bring out a cover like that nowadays. The Man Who Died Twice. And also you've just got just absolutely brilliant artwork all the way through. Again, it's very, I mean, it's obviously the original art pages, but, you know, very, very, very sharp, high quality, and absolutely easy to read all the way. I mean, that's the thing about the panel structure, everything. It's just easy to read because you can just, it flows. It's no complexity. And also, personally, well, obviously I'm going to show an example where it is quite wordy, but you've got panels where, you know, you can't do this to me, etc. There's not much. You're not dead. It's all trick, etc. So you've got some panels that are quite relatively straight, compared with sometimes the EC ones, which EC ones you can like get about 400 words in a panel. They do overdo it sometimes, I always thought. Love EC comics, but sometimes they did overdo the wordy. Bob Powell's Terror. This is another one, obviously. Bob Powell on there. And again, just full of lots of weird, great pictures, shadow comics, Atomer. Some of these ones are actually, if you, probably quite hard to find otherwise. I mean, obviously they're, you know, like this. I mean, just great examples, just full. This one's quite a gruesome story, actually. There are quite a lot of gruesome stories when you read these things. And also, The Rat Man. Again, another quite gruesome story. But I love its original art page. I love the blue and the white as well. Just beautiful. And sometimes, of course, a lot of that's lost when you get to the sort of get the comic book. I think the comic book, and there's quite, again, lots of gruesomeness in this, but also some really good artwork. So what's next? You've got this woman as obviously the telephonist there, and just again, great artwork, great stories, well told. I love this one with the alien creature there, the walking green horror. I mean, look at that. That's quite unusual, isn't it? The way they've done that. Instead of going for the usual colour scheme, they've obviously gone for really red and that blue there. Very and all that as well. Completely without colour on that page. I suppose that's quite a good way of doing it, to save a few pounds on that. Or dollars, I should say. However, you've got some great examples and some really ones. And some of these, of course, are great. I love this amazing 3D comics. That one's excellent. Steve Ditko, The Art of Ditko. You could probably include a lot of Ditko because it's sort of suspense / terror. Not really horror, but certainly not in the style of this. But it's always very tricky to sort of define what you're going to go. But that's a selection of books. I don't know how many that is, but that's about 14 or 15 books that may be of interest and worth checking out. Hope you found this. Anyway, bye.